What's going on? All right, this is another one of Fun with Azure. This is Synapse Studio, part 14, and actually it's the third part of our DevOps review and DevOps integration, so to speak, with Synapse Studio. Okay, so let's get into the details. So this is the agenda, green items, what we covered last time already in the second part of this mini series. Overall topic is still Synapse Studio, but this is a bit bigger topic, so I started to have sort of subtitles for these DevOps related videos. So what I'm gonna do in this video, this is gonna be hopefully a bit of a shorter video. Planning not to do too long videos all the time. I'm planning for it, but it's easier said than done. But anyway, I'm planning to do this at 10-12 minutes. So I really want to pay attention to that. And then mainly I want to discuss this chart, and which basically depicts the CI/CD process with Synapse Studio and Azure Devops. And before we get in the next videos further into the details and actually go through this one by one, I think it's beneficial for you to hear this up front, right? So that then we can refer to that slide as we continue with the next videos. I do see quite a couple of more videos on this topic, at least 2-3 more, maybe more videos. So let's just see how it goes and have some fun here exploring this. Where do we start? Let's head over to the portal. And then we'll come back here. So well, let's start here on that chart real quick, on that image real quick. So you can see there's a dev resource group, right? Dev RG, and there's a Synapse workspace within the dev resource group, and obviously there's also QA resource group and a Synapse workspace, right? And then on the left hand side we have Azure Devops, and within Azure Devops we have a repo section and we have a release section, which are actually real sections within DevOps. So let me head over to DevOps real quick and show you those sections. So this Synapse Studio, this is my DevOps project related to this, right? So last time we went through this, the setup and everything. So here you see the repo section, repos, right? And then here this pipeline section is actually the section that in that image over here is basically the release section. So I could rename release to pipeline, and then it would match up. Better to or pipelines to that icon here, right? So and you can see, well, we already discussed a bit on repos, right? And we already have the Fun with Azure Synapse repo, which is the only repo in this project out there. And we have currently several branches, and basically branches are nothing more than containers to contain code, right? In that case, and there's sort of a sequence to it, which is also depicted in that image that we get to in a minute. But those are the repos here. And then once the repo stuff is all done, this is where the pipeline's coming in, and the image also is going to show this. There's basically a job then that picks up the artifacts that were produced from that repo section to then eventually release them to the QA environment in that specific example that I have in that image here. So let's go through this here really a bit more in detail to get the full understanding. Maybe also putting it in context into the Synapse Studio, right? So when I go over here, you can see we configured this workspace already to have a connectivity to Git. So when I go here and click on manage, right, I go to source control and Git configuration. Then I see here the details, the resource type. I see the org, project name, repository name. So, and then even the collaboration branch, which is master, publish branch. Memorize this publish branch because we're going to look at this as well. That's a very important branch actually. And then last published commit. So quite some important information here, and you see this is already connected. So when I go back to the image, this is actually represented by this orange line here with the number 0, basically setting up that connectivity, and we did that in the first 2 videos of that session. Then the next step is basically that number 1 here relates to getting data into a data lake, right? Because, you know, at some point we need to start with data, right? So one way of doing this is loading some Parquet or CSV files into a Gen 2 storage account. You know, obviously this could come from on-prem and could be staged there and then further processed through notebooks or SQL scripts, and then, you know, written out into memory and then processed, massaged, and written back, and eventually stored external, maybe in an Azure SQL database, or even in a serverless, in a dedicated pool, or back in Gen 2 in a Parquet or even a Delta Lake format, to then being consumed by serverless pools, right? Many choices here. What choice to use in what circumstance or situation is not topic of that video here, but definitely an important one. So we have then data here, then we can actually start developing, right? And keep in mind, all of these artifacts that we develop, we eventually want to release, right, to the QA environment, right? So we start with a notebook, we do possibly SQL scripts, and we also have a Synapse pipeline, right? So that's number 2, right, where the developer, at least one, but normally it's more than one, works on those artifacts, and then they commit those to a feature branch. So each developer typically has its own feature branch, and then from there, once done, right, it's basically, there's a pull request submitted in DevOps, basically to ask for review and to merge the features in the feature branch into an integration branch. And, you know, in a model where you have multiple developers, this would definitely require multiple pull requests, right? Because you have multiple feature branches. So you have one integration branch, but multiple feature branches for each developer, typically one, if a developer works on a feature, and then we integrate this, right? So that's sort of the first step in getting to a published branch, which basically is our goal in that process, so that we have all the artifacts for the release collected. And then once we have it in the integration branch, we still need to get it to the master branch, right? And so there's another pull request needed, which is typically done then by the lead developer, in making sure that this is all, you know, the way it's supposed to be. Ideally, tests were run already, so that once this pull request is confirmed, you know, we basically have all the artifacts of a sprint that's been, you know, worked on in that sprint in the master, right? And once that is done, then we have the publish, right? So commit deals with getting data into a feature branch. Pull requests deals with moving these artifacts from a feature branch into the next higher branch, next more integrated branch. You could run into situations of when you do a pull request into merge conflicts, where basically 2 or more pieces of feature branches do change the same, right, in different ways. So then you need to resolve those. But assuming this is not going to happen, this is the process, right? And then after we have it committed into the master and pull requested into the master, we need to do that publish. And this is also done, or also available in the menu here. Just want to really quickly point it out. So here's that publish button, which is currently not active, right? And then here's the commit all. And so we'll play with this a bit further. I just wanted to relate the image to this one, and I need to watch my time here. But Anyway, so at the end of this repo process, we're basically having those artifacts, the ARM template and the ARM parameter. This is mainly what we're doing this all for, right? So that we can use those artifacts, and we're gonna look at those. I actually did not do this in the process yet that I have shown here. And you can see this because, well, I don't have this when I go here to the repos and I go to branches, there, there's a master branch, there's a feature branch, and there's a test branch. And we saw from the configuration in the Synapse Studio over here, we saw that the publish branch is called workspace publish. So at some point, this name is going to be popping up here, because that's the name of the publish branch. So that tells me we haven't really done the publish yet, right? And so that is that. So let's go back here real quick, and then so once we have that publish done, we have those ARM template and parameters. But keep in mind the names are hard coded in there, like the names for the destination Synapse workspace and even other parameters. So that's why in the release section then of this process, we're gonna have a variable and organized in groups, so that we can basically apply this variable group section to the release job in a way that we parameterize these names, right? And this could be different types of names, storage account names eventually. In that specific circumstance, it's actually the workspace name, because typically you would also have a production or pre-production workspace, right? So if we had 4 environments, 3 additional ones, then you would need to have basically 3 sets of variables to capture that. And let me show you that real quick how this looks like over here. So if I go pipelines and I go library, don't ask me why they call this library. This is where you generate those variable groups, right? So I did one here for UAT, and when we go into this, you can see that this UAT is the name of the variable group, and the only variable that's in here is called environment, and it's called UAT. So we're gonna play with this more, and obviously I need to add more variable groups. But that's sort of the concept, so that we can then go here to pipelines and create those pipelines. This is then basically what allows us to publish this and select that. So let's go back one more time to the visual. Once we have the release job build that uses those variables and have that dynamic, that way we can then say, okay, you know what, when there is a new master, run this process all the way through, get us new ARM template and ARM parameters, get us all the new artifacts that the developers produced, and then we authenticate against the Synapse workspace in QA. That's in step 7. And keep in mind, you need to make sure that this process here, that DevOps pipeline process, the release process, actually does have permissions to write information to that Synapse workspace. So you need to grant artificial publisher permissions to that principle, so that this could be written over here. And given the context of what you see on screen, then the notebook and the Synapse pipeline and the SQL script would be released, right, to QA, right? Then obviously, if you're starting scheduling it there, then it would run there as well. And this is sort of the process that I want to go through entirely, and make sure that we cover that. Keep in mind there are some other gotchas here. So some of these computes actually do not exist yet. So we do not have yet a Spark pool provisioned on SQL. On my resource group, right? There's no Spark pool yet, so I need to create this. And we don't even have a QA resource group, right? So I entirely need to create that one. I think I'm planning to do that next time. Yes, here we go, create Spark pools for dev and create a QA workspace that's entirely open. And once we have that, then we can actually go through, I think, the publish step, because we already have some code. I may need to change this a bit. Go through that step here in number 4 to retrieve these artifacts, and then the big chunk of time we need to spend on number 6, right, where we define the variables, create the release jobs, and then number 7 and 8 where we actually push it out and deal with potential run errors and fix those. But so that's sort of the plan for the next couple of videos. Just wanted to lay this out, and you know, given the many pieces being involved, I felt like it's a good idea to visualize this that way. Hope it's helpful, and talk to you soon. Cheers.